Hello there. Welcome. My name's Andy and I'm a storyteller. And I have a wonderful story for you today. Now, before I start telling that story, I would like to make sure that you are nice and relaxed. So I would like you to put your hands on your tummies and I want you to breathe in through your nose and get as much air as you can into your lungs. All right? You can put your hands on your tummies and try and feel your tummies getting bigger because your lungs are going to expand with air and your lungs are going to push down and make your tummy stick out. A bit like a beach ball. All right? Are you ready? Okay, hands on your tummies. Let's go. Breathe in. And I want you to breathe out really slowly. Right, breathe in again. And breathe out really slowly. Wonderful. Now I hope you feel nice and relaxed, ready for a story. Now this story is from a long time ago, and it starts with a little girl walking the streets towards the end of the day. The snow had been falling all throughout the day, and her feet were cold. Now, her feet were cold because she didn't have any shoes on. She did have some slippers on earlier in the day, but what use were they anyway? They were far too big for her. And when she tried crossing a road, a horse and carriage came by very quickly, and she slipped and her slippers came off her feet. And a little boy came by and he picked up one and ran off with it. She tried to run after him, but he just turned back and laughed at her and said he was going to use the slipper for a baby's crib one day when he had children. And she turned around and she looked for the other slipper and she could not find it. And so she carried on walking, her feet red and blue from the cold. She was shivering. All she had on was a thin cotton dress and had a little pocket in the front. And in that pocket, she had matches. She had tried all through the day trying to sell matches to people, but nobody wanted to buy any matches. And she did not dare go back home unless she sold some matches because she knew that her father would get cross with her. And in any case, what was back at home? I mean, yes, there was a roof over her head, but the wind blew through the house. It was so cold and there was no food. There was no coal or wood to make a fire. And so she carried on walking the streets. And the air was filled with the smell of, roast goose. You see, it was the last day of the year. It was New Year's Eve. And people were all getting ready to celebrate that evening. She came to the end of a street where two houses joined together and there was a corner, and she huddled in the corner and she sat down and she drew her feet in. She pulled her knees up and she wrapped her arms around her legs, trying to make herself warm. But it did not work. She was bitterly cold. And then she remembered the matches in the pocket of her dress. And she pulled out a match and she struck it against the wall. Oh! Eventually she got a flame. Oh! She cupped her hands around the flame and, oh yes, oh the warmth was, oh it went out. It went out. No, no, she said. And she quickly grabbed another match from within the pocket of her dress and she struck it again. And this time she held the match up against the wall, and the wall became invisible. It became translucent, and she could see through the wall. And there she saw a table with a white tablecloth. And there in the middle of the table was a magnificent roast goose and root vegetables, carrots and turnips and parsnips and potatoes. And there was a big boat of gravy. And there were plates and knives and forks all around the table, and glasses with a beautiful drink in each glass. And she stared at the goose, and the next thing she blinked her eyes because the goose jumped off the table. The knife and the fork was stuck into the goose, and it walked across closer and closer to her, just as the match went out. The flame of the match went out. And she blinked her eyes. She looked around and she thought, no, she wanted that goose. So she took another match and she struck it again. And she looked into the flames. And this time she saw a Christmas tree, a beautiful Christmas tree with the most amazing Christmas decorations. Oh, she dropped the match. It went out. But she looked up into the sky and she still saw the lights of the Christmas tree. The lights of the Christmas tree, all those hundreds and thousands of candles on the Christmas tree were in the sky. And then she saw one light drop and dip and leave a trail of light. A falling star. And she remembered what her grandmother would tell her. Somebody was dying. And as the star dropped, so their soul would go up into the sky and up into the heavens. Oh, how she missed her grandmother. Her grandmother was the only one that ever loved her. She sighed and she took another match from the pocket of her dress and she struck it again. Oh, please light, please light. Oh. She lit the match and she looked into the flame, and then she saw her grandmother. Her grandmother was looking at her. Her grandmother was holding out her arms. Her grandmother was beckoning her to come to... No! The match went out. She quickly went and reached into the apron, reached into the pocket of her dress. She pulled out another match. She struck it again. Oh no! She lit the match, and then she took another match and she lit that match. And then she grabbed another match. She grabbed a whole lot of matches and she lit them all at once. She lit all the matches at once. Oh, and she looked into the flames. And she saw her grandmother again. Her grandmother was coming towards her. Her grandmother was standing right before her. Her grandmother reached out her hand, and the little girl reached out and touched the hand of her grandmother just as the flames of the matches went out. The next day people came walking by and they saw the little girl. She was frozen stiff. Her eyes were closed, but she had a little smile on her face. And they looked and they saw the matches around her on the ground, and they thought, She must have tried to burn the matches to keep warm. But she had left this world. But they did not know that that little girl was now a very happy little girl. She was with her grandmother, up in the heavens, up amongst the stars. And that is the story by Hans Christian Andersen, called The Little Match Girl. I hope you enjoyed it. But I want you to promise me, please, do not play with matches. I've told that story today, lighting matches, but please, matches can be very dangerous. So please promise me you won't play with matches. Perhaps if you ask a grown-up, they can help you light a candle with a match. And you can retell them the story of the little match girl. Join me again soon for another story from a long time ago. My name's Andy, and this is all part of the Sutton Newtown Community Festival. Bye-bye, and I hope to see you again soon.